They make them, we cover them, you sell them. Welcome to OEM Update, where we talk about everything you need to know about this year's vehicle model lines. My name is Megan Cusack, editor of Motorcycle and Powersports News, and today we're going to be talking about the 2025 Segway Xafari. The Xafari is a new e-bike and starts at a base MSRP of $2,000. So, let's dive deeper into what exactly this e-bike has to offer. But for that, we're going to go straight to the OEM source. Joining me today to give us an overview of the 2025 Segway Xafari is Nick Howe, head of the e-bike project for Segway. Nick, thank you so much for jumping on to speak with us today.
That's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, now the last time we spoke with Segway about the supervillain, so if you haven't already checked out that video, be sure to do so. All right, Nick, so can you go ahead and start by giving us a brief introduction to the Xafari? For instance, which type of customers are looking for this kind of e-bike?
Yeah, no, good question. Safari is, I think one of the things we really appreciate about Safari is that it's a very broad range of customers that are interested in this bike. So it has a certain sense of stability and confidence that it inspires, and a low step through frame, which means that a new user or a user returning to cycling can very comfortably and easily ride the bike. But the deep level of technology, the off-road and on-road capability, the great range of the bike lends itself to many different kinds of uses. And so many different kinds of users can use the bike. It's almost sort of a ubiquitous opportunity to sort of address any rider need.
Excellent. All right. So I already like that you pointed out is for on-road and off-road there. What are some of the other key features and selling points of this model? And, I guess, how does it differ from other e-bikes on the market? Because we know there are a lot of those.
The e-bike industry tends to focus on a couple of things. You want to focus on range, how far can the bike go, how much power does the bike have, how fast can the bike go. These are things that most e-bike companies will really focus on, and this is no exception. We've really addressed those things. This bike has monster range, up to 88 miles if you're using the bike in sort of an eco mode. So you can go a really long way without charging, and it's incredibly powerful. You're getting up to the max speed of class 2 in a little over 5 seconds. So you can accelerate the bike really effectively. The bike rides very long distances. That's natural, and that's something that all e-bikes are addressing right now. But what sets the bike apart, if you really want to dive into deep selling features, you would look at the technology that exists in the bike. As we started this project, one of the things we really thought about was, most bike companies are developing fabulous bicycles and then trying to attach a couple of technologies onto the top. Segway looked at this a different way. We're really a technology company first. We talk about tech stacks in relation to product development. We don't talk about bicycles and then hope that we can add a technology or two. So you have this really deep range of technologies in this bicycle. For example, you have proximity locking like you would have in your car, where you can ride up to a destination. The bicycle is tethered to your phone the same way it might be tethered to your key fob in your vehicle.
Oh,
And
wow.
you can literally get off the bike, put the kickstand down. You walk away, and after about 10 feet, the bike will lock. It sets an alarm just like your vehicle does. And that alarm actually tethers to an alarm in your phone. So if you're in the store, for example, picking up a few things in the afternoon and you ride home, you can just park the bike out front. If somebody does try to move this bicycle or touch this bicycle, the alarm goes off outside, but it also goes off inside, so you can come out and address the need of the bicycle. These are deep technologies that think about user experience, right? Everything down to having a USB and USB-C charging port like really neatly plugged in on the bike so that you can make sure that your phone is charging when you're riding your bike, the same way that we've all become accustomed to experiencing having your phone charged when you're riding in your car, right? Or on your motorcycle. You want to be able to sort of keep that device rolling. And it doesn't stop there. You have the capacity to integrate your music programs. You have call notifications on the screen of your bike. You have deep technologies in the way that the motor functions that really supersede what the market is doing, where we're taking our gyroscopic sensor technology, and as you get onto different gradients, the power output will change based on those gradients to make sure that it's giving you a level experience, a level riding experience, regardless of the terrain that you're on, for example. And so the bike just has a deep set of technologies that set it apart. And in most cases, when you start adding these kinds of technologies, the price becomes, sometimes a little bit offensive at some point. And we've managed to do all of that and then still keep a price of just under $2,000. So you get a huge package or tech stack stacked into your bicycle that has all of the range that you would ever want. Super comfortable, super compliant. And it just really makes the bike a winner, I think, in the category.
Yeah, and I love the way you put that too, because as you mentioned,
Yeah.
Segway is at its heart a tech company. And so, you know, talking about it as like a technological bike versus a bike with technology added on, I really like
Yeah.
that differentiator. That
Yeah.
and love the features you're putting on there. Like I would never have thought to put essentially a car alarm on a bike. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that even stacks on Apple Find My. So in the instance that somebody is brave enough to deal with the alarm and the bike finds itself moving, maybe not at your behest, you can find it.
Okay.
It's built into the device itself. So it's quite difficult, even if you did try to steal this bike, to keep it.
I know you guys mentioned you have another e-bike offering as well, the Cyber. So how does the Safari differ from the Cyber?
A lot, actually. They're really different. They're really different machines. Safari really lives inside that e-bike category space. But I think what's happened and what we've been thinking about is that technology has pushed so far and so quickly that there's this gap space that lives between a bicycle and a motorcycle and a proper motorcycle. Cyber lives in that space. You sort of have this iconic cyberpunk aesthetic of cyber that really it's nothing like it on the market. You look at it and people stop me all the time if I'm riding it and have to ask, like, what is that? Because you have
Mhm.
this bicycle, but it looks like a motorcycle from the future at the time, and it has technologies like a motorcycle future at the time, where the top speed is, for example, 35 miles per hour, which
Mhm.
takes it outside of a traditional classified bicycle and turns it into sort of more of an off-road or performance device. You're going 0 to 20 miles per hour in 2.8 seconds. You have a huge amount of range, 112-mile range on this. So it becomes a device that lets you go out and from an off-road standpoint, really explore in a deep way. We were having a conversation before this interview, and you were sort of talking about trying to find more users in power sports,
Mhm.
people who want to try something, but maybe a big motorcycle is intimidating. And so here's a device that's under 120 pounds with 112 miles of range and a 35 mile per hour top speed that's built to be incredibly stable and easily usable, that might serve that part of the market and give somebody that sort of entry point into motorsports, feel
Yeah.
that motorsport power without a device underneath you that's heavy and intimidating or difficult to use, or that has a clutch and you have to learn this clutch and how to balance and ride all at the same time. This bike, it doesn't force you to do that. So it's this really interesting gap bridger between bicycle and power sports, I think. It has
Yeah.
all of the same technologies, all of them. So you just have more power. You have this really cool aesthetic tied into cyber. It's kind of developing its own identity online, and people are really grabbing it and they're modifying it and they're painting it, and it's becoming something, you know, maybe that's category creating in some sense, as sort of this thing that lives between those two spaces and lets riders do some new things on a two-wheeled machine.
Very cool. Love to see that. Really do.
Yeah.
Um, and so, speaking of people, I guess, customizing their rides, what would you say are some of the most popular accessories for the Safari?
Safari, interestingly enough, when we developed Safari, we wanted to provide riders, when they purchase the bike, with just about everything that they could need.
Mm-hmm.
So, oftentimes you'll go into a bicycle store and the manufacturers will sell e-bikes without racks, without fenders, without the things that you sort of need for basic riding. And this bike has all of that, like I said, down to the place to plug your cell phone in to charge it. So, we have a really nice cell phone attachment that mounts on the handlebar. That's one of the accessories that we will sell. But I think what makes it great is that our rear rack, for example, there are brands, many third-party brands in the market that make things that give a user a myriad of choices, and they can select that. So our goal was to have all of the basic accessories built into the bike to make it really easy. And this is nice for a Powersports dealer who maybe doesn't want to set aside a big portion of their retail floor for bicycle accessories, right? As a smaller part of their overall business. This bike actually comes sort of ready to go out the door in many ways.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
I always like hearing about those when, you've thought about
Yeah.
it and you said, you know what, let's just give them everything they need.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So, I know Powersports dealers in the service department, they're obviously more used to handling like motorcycles and everything. Is there anything that they would need to know about servicing this type of e-bike?
I think, there's so many things that cross over from Powersports service into bicycle service. Of course, like any product, you have some specific tools. You have to make sure that you have the appropriate bicycle tools to be able to deal with smaller things, but it's a minimum number of tools that you might need that you don't already have. Everything is built on the metric system, so you should make sure that your tools are metric appropriate. Beyond that, really, what we've done is we've created for our retailers, we've created an app that's on our phone on the phones, and in that app you have a lot of detailed information that you can dive into to make sure that you understand how to walk through repairs. Videos for almost every single repair that you could functionally need to execute on the bike exist there. BOMs with all of the small parts exist there. So, other than a little bit of time to sort of work on the bikes, I think there's not much that's necessary. Maybe with the exception of a proper electric bike stand, which we really encourage. It makes working on the bike quite a lot easier, and you can't. Some of the motorcycle lifts would work really nicely with a Cyber, for example, which is set to be able to be repaired with a motorcycle lift. But you do need a bicycle lift for a Xafari, and there are a lot of third-party manufacturers that are making really great bike stands that you can get for $1,000 to $3,000 depending on what level of quality you want that will serve the lift need of the bike.
Now, just to clarify for our dealers here, because you guys are Segway, but you also have the Segway Powersports arm. If they're interested in reaching out to get either the Xafari or the Cyber here, who do they need to reach out to? Would it be directly to you guys at Segway, or can they go through their Segway Powersports channels if they're already Segway dealers?
We try to make it as easy as we can. So the answer to your question is yes. They can do any of these things. If you have a familiarity or a good contact already with Segway Powersports, they'll happily put you in touch with us to help. And we want to work as a team to make sure that we're providing product. And though the programs are a little bit different from the bike side to the Powersports side, we're going to find a way to help you. So if you want to go to segway.com, there's a inquire about being a dealer. You can actually inquire there, or you can reach out to your current contact and just inquire, and they'll usually connect to our sales team.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right, so now that dealers know exactly how they can get in contact with you, what are some of the advantages of doing business with Segway, especially on the micromobility side?
Yeah, this is my favorite question. I think it's really interesting. We look at ourselves as a very valuable complement to your Powersports business. Why? One, the margins that we're offering are really industry leading. Not just industry leading in the Powersports world, but industry leading in the bicycle world. So, we have a couple of different dealer tier levels, but it's quite simple with a not too aggressive initial buying investment to be looking at 40% margins on these products, which I know is quite a lot higher than what you see in the Powersports space. Second is that the products typically can be sold as an accessory to a bigger purchase. So if somebody's going to go ahead and enter the space, and they're going to take out a loan and they're going to buy their side by side, selling them a kick scooter or a couple of e-bikes to go with that side by side as accessory can be thrown into the deal, which makes it a nice add-on, a sort of high margin add-on for your customer. It's sort of like stacking your sale a little bit, which I think is pretty exciting. And the third thing is that you have a really broad array of product from Segway. We have kick scooters that have 55 mile per hour top speeds that are legitimate transportation devices, and again, offer users who may be intimidated by riding in the power sports world another option, something more comfortable to use every day, and maybe that doesn't require licensure and those kinds of things, still with a high margin. And just to plant a little seed, that array of product really intends to expand. Last year at CES, we showed some prototype e-dirt bikes that we were using in Dakar. And I may or may not be able to say that technology is finding its way, trickling down into a product that we're hoping that you might see in the future. So we have a lot of things to offer. We're going to continue to expanding that offering. And we think we offer a really nice, profitable relationship with our retail partners.
Okay, well, thank you for planting that seed. We're definitely going to keep an eye out in the future for more to come from Segway.
Great. Thank you so much.
And so finally, what is Segway doing to help dealers move these units?
We try to do everything. We really, when I talked at the beginning of this about being, before we were on camera, about being the head of the project, we wanted to think about helping our dealers from the beginning of the process to the end. So when I talk about developing an application, for example, that application makes functional use or functional processes much more simple. For example, you have an app that allows you to file a warranty claim from your phone in less than 90 seconds. If you have an issue, this is something that we're really pushing to sort of make working with Segway from a business perspective easier, saving time, as we know that time, especially in the service department, is of great value. We want to think about that, but also, we have marketing opportunities. We have a lot of geo-targeting partnership that we're doing with many of our retailers. And so we do that on an individual basis, where a retailer might reach out and say, hey, we want to really push in the next month, Xafari, for example, here's what our marketing campaign is. We might boost that campaign. We might provide assets for that campaign. And we might even suggest a campaign and say, hey, that's not working as well as this other thing that we've been doing in this other market. Maybe we can suggest this. And we really create partnerships with the retailers on individual bases to see if we can help that particular market sell whatever particular machine it is that the dealer is looking to push at the time.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, Nick, and thank you so much for taking the time today to talk with us about the 2025 Xafari.
Really great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
For more information about its e-bikes or to become a dealer, head to segway.com. And as always, like, subscribe, and stay tuned to MPN for more of the latest and greatest in motorcycle and powersports news.